The next thing I'm going to do is compare the bit of the back tiling, which I've got a willow colour here. I just want to see what it looks like with the other colours, but I may have it as an undercoat and put another colour over the top. These are wider tiles, and I just want to have that in as the comparison there, and because I'm going to put a tree behind it. Now the tree that I'm going to put behind, I'm going to do slightly differently, and think I might blend a little bit of felt green by pulling it down into the palette. I actually pull the green into the palette and lift it from the palette. So a little bit of felt green and a little bit of blue done in the same way to give me a nice green for the background here. And this is just painting as if I were using ordinary watercolours. And I'm using the crisscross application, and I'm going to take it down and up to that roof, trying to get it as an interesting shape, and that'll bring the roof forward. And that's all we need in the background, just a simple area like that. And while I've got the green, I could add something like a little bit of Sicilian yellow, just to lighten it up a bit by touching the tip of the pencil and lightening it up in the palette for a tree in the foreground, which just takes over that interesting corner. And again, I'm using one of my strokes, and this one is the up to and away, up to that corner of the roof there and away down, and it's applied in a push-pull way, and I'm going to just blend it out a little so that it doesn't stop too suddenly at the edge. So again, up to the edge of that window and then pulling it down. I think we need to go into the windows now. I want to go back to my charcoal grey. So starting from these, I go up to the glazing bar and away from it. Again, up to the glazing bar and away. And I have outlines here that I follow, but I am reducing the width of the bars as I do so, because we don't want them too wide at that distance. And we see just a little bit of this window, but on the whole the greenery is overlapping it. And there's another one at the top here, and that also is open, so that comes out from the building a little bit with the greenery coming in front of it. We've got the same thing happening here. The top ones are a little bit in shadow, but these have the dark recess. So it's a case of filling them in. And again, we've got to relate it to the actual tree. I'm going to go back onto the neutral colour of Indian ink and put that under here. A bit of zigzag to give some interest. Going up to the green of the bush, which I'll blend out. And I'll just wash this colour over. And willow is quite a bright colour, so it will be an undercoat. It's just to add that little bit of warmth at the back there, and then blending up underneath and down over the window. And actually we need a little bit of red down there, so I'll touch the madder brown and just introduce a little bit of warmth down that side. And I think we can go on to the hanging basket, which is here. Just little push-pull strokes, leaving little bits of white paper showing, into which I can put some colour, because there are some pink flowers in there. So I can trail that down and just touch it. Little crisscross strokes. A little bit of red oxide might add some colour. I'm going to wash on the doorway or the gate that's hanging, and I'm looking again for the neutral for that. And I can just touch it for that and just bring it down. And it's quite nice to put a rough wash on, and then when it's dry I just draw on top a little with a pointed pencil to give some wood grain effect and a bit of texture, because it's a very old door there, or gateway. So I'll just put that on there and I'll let that dry. And there's a window that I could actually do in the same way as I did with the charcoal grey, so I'll just put that window in very quickly. So a little bit of green at the bottom, light olive again, pushing upwards and pulling downwards just to establish this area. I'm only thinking of the darker shapes there. And I can touch the pencil tip that's lying on the palette and add it to a little bit of the green there to put some different green across the top so that it shows up against the other one as a different hue. Now we're beginning to get the corner filled in now as a comparison. Just a little bit of stonework here, just for the slightest bit of tone for that little window there. Having had a look at it now, I think I'm going to start at the lower area and put some more brickwork in, or stonework really, down here, with the same technique as I started over there and with the Indian ink colour again. So it's just putting in backwards and forwards, getting these elongated stones and not doing it all over the place, just one or two in certain areas so that I can blend it. I've got some greenery coming up there in a minute, so I don't want to go too close over there. I want to take the stones here because they are more noticeable here. I'm taking them across and relating them to the archway. So really I'm just filling in this lower area with the same sort of side-to-side movement that uses the texture of the paper to advantage. I've just noticed that I've left out this little bit here. I want to get the other side of that archway and a few more stones just in here. And they actually are slightly darker in there, so I can put a little bit more pressure there. So now I've filled in a little bit more and we'll just blend some more water over them to darken up some of these stones. And then I've got to do the overhang at the top. It's quite dark in here, so I'm making more of that and then just blending up. And under here again it's quite dark, so we just go across that little bit there and a few more movements here, and it's dark in there, a little bit of contrast. That's building up the wall a little bit more. I'm going to just pull down willow into the palette a bit, just to lighten up some of this side. Just to give a bit of warmth to it as that's in the sunshine. And they're coming up to where I've got some greenery there. Notice I'm not just washing it over, I'm trying to get a little bit of dry brush work as well to add a bit of texture to it and a bit of interest. And up here I can increase the intensity and pull it away from that edge where we have a little bit of woodwork going down there and got a very big dark area under here. So I can pick up some of the dark from here and paint it directly into there, just to fill that little hole. And there'll be a little bit of dark just under here, but not too much because it's going away at a distance again. So I want to wash over that ground in front with a little bit of grey, so I can pull the grey down into the palette and put it dark under there and out into the pavement area. And then it goes across an uneven bit of gravel there, and that anchors it a bit. And now a little bit of the willow again down the side, mixed in with the grey, just to add that little bit of warmth down here. And with the charcoal grey, a little bit of unevenness on here. I've almost finished that area now, so I just want to do a little bit more of the greenery. And this is a very similar stroke as I was doing before, so I can just go back over that area and it's just crisscross and intensifying some of the areas where I've seen it hasn't moved enough to fill them in completely. So I'm just intensifying some of those areas with the crisscross stroke and thinking of how it overlaps the windows. And I do zigzag strokes at the base and flatten them out to really anchor that lower area of grass on the pavement. I want to let this dry and then do a wash of a brighter green over the top, so I've got to let that area dry. And while it is, I'll just finish off a little bit at the base, under here where we've got some odd shapes as it meets the pavement, and a bit more tone there, and here it's darker. So I'll just wait for that piece to dry and then I can finish off. So I'm just going to pick up a neutral grey to start with, I think, because I've noticed that I haven't got any tone under here. So I'm going to zigzag along to give that overhang some shadow, and I can then attach the lamp while I'm up there by putting a strong side to it there, the base. Take that down. I've decided to leave out 2 other supports for this, and I'm going to just do that little bit down there with some Indian ink, bringing it down, and then there's a little piece coming out and then down again, just to finish that off, and a little bit of shadow on the side of these chimney pots. So just touching it up and wobbling a bit to make it more interesting, and a little bit of tone under there. And now I can wet this tone and pull it down a bit, because it actually does trail down the side of the building, so it's just a case of pulling it onto that and finishing off that corner. There's a little bit of warmth on that roof too, so I might just touch it up over the areas that I've left white with that little bit of warmth, and that finishes that off. And there's a little bit of tone down that side to bring that bit forward. And just touch in the chimney pots very lightly at the top. They don't need much on them. That doesn't need anything at all. And I think that has shown you the basic strokes I would use for this. So for the wall, it's just following the movement of those stones that you can see along the wall and putting it on dry and then wetting it. I washed over areas like this by just pulling it down into the palette and washing across in a quite loose watercolour technique. The crisscross approach can then be put in for the darks and wetted, and if you like you can go over with lighter greens afterwards to bring out the brightness of the greens there. That was just a watercolour technique done from the palette. A lot of little techniques put together, and I hope you're going to enjoy them yourself.
Now available on DVD. Try these techniques yourself at home whenever you wish. The extended version of today's workshop is now available to order on DVD from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.